Hey there, Board Game Brody here with Let's Table It, where we get games to the table, like this prototype copy of Raw and Right from 25th Century Games. It's the newest Raw game that's out there. It holds onto some of those elements of Raw, the base game, and it removes the bidding, but mixes it up to make a fair, strategical flip and right game. So in Raw and Right, there are 3 rounds. The Old Kingdom represented by the green sand timer, the Middle Kingdom represented by the orange or yellow sand timer, and the New Kingdom is represented by the red sand timer. So kind of like a stoplight. So you know roughly where you are in the game, depending on what color you are focusing on. Each round is represented by one of those. At the end of each round, scoring is then performed, and a round ends when 3 raw cards appear. So there is a deck of cards used in this game, and there are a certain amount of different cards shuffled in to make one deck of cards, but 9 total raw cards, which will trigger the end of rounds. It is possible to go through more than half of the deck without finishing the first round, but this means that all other rounds after that will be shorter. But you can work on any sections in the game at any time, meaning you can mark off areas where you are, when you're in the first round to score later on when you're in the second and third round. Players take turns in a clockwise order, and on your turn you will flip over the top 3 cards from the shuffled deck and place the cards face up for everyone to see. As the active player, you will choose one of those cards that you will activate. You and only you, removing it from the area from the others. You will activate that card without anyone else being able to choose it. All other players will then have a choice of choosing one of the other 2 cards. Now, these players can choose the same card or any different card. It doesn't matter. If a red raw card appears, then you will remove it and place it to the side, and then redraw a new card to fill in its space. And really, that's the game, is flipping over 3 cards. The active player will choose one card, which only they can activate, and then the other players will choose from the others. And then you will then do whatever it shows on your score sheet. After the first 3 raw cards are drawn, you trigger the first round of scoring. After the next 3, the second round is triggered for scoring. And then when the last 3 raw cards are out, the last round is scored. And then the player with the most points wins the game. Each player has their own score sheet, which will give them places to work on to potentially score points. And when activating a card, you will do something in its section on your score sheet. These areas are similar to Raw, but again, some have been changed to, better fit the Raw and Right way. So let's start on the top of this score sheet here and talk more about this section. This top section is the God section. These God cards will activate this section, and there are 20 total cards numbered from 1 to 20. And when choosing to activate this action, you will write in the number of the card in any empty spaces in the row. This can be the round that you are in or any future rounds as well. You can see that the area is sectioned out according to the rounds: green, yellow, and red. So if you want to focus on a certain round, that is fine. If and when you fill in 3 numbers in a section, you can add up the total and write it in the box after the equal sign. The goal here is to have the highest total for each round, because at the end of the round, which is when 3 raw cards have been flipped over, you will compare your totals with all the other players. If there are blanks because you didn't perform that action 3 times for that time, then the blanks become zeros and you add up what you have. The player with the highest total gains 5 points. Those who didn't have the highest, but also not the lowest, will score 0 points. And the player with the lowest number, they will gain -5 points. So high numbers are always better here. And if you have a choice between 2 God cards, always choose the higher one. If you gain a bonus giving you a God action, you can use a 20 and place it in an empty section of your choice anywhere there. And that's the God section. If you happen to write in 3 numbers, you will also reward yourself with a free Pharaoh action. Now, the Pharaoh cards look like this. There are 17 in the game in total. When choosing to activate this section, you will mark off the leftmost space. When gaining a bonus, you will still fill in the leftmost space of that section. At the end of the round, whoever has the most spaces filled in, they will gain 5 points. And the players who don't have the most but also do not have the least, they will gain 0 points. And the player with the least amount of these marked off spaces will gain -5 points. When you mark off up to the Nile symbol, every group of 3 that is, it will give you a free bonus, a Nile bonus. These are the Nile cards here. They are numbered from 1 to 20, so 20 in total. When activating this action, you can write your number shown on the card in any empty space in the row. Now, numbers in the row need to increase or be equal to from left to right. So you might want to leave, spaces blank until the time comes to fill in with a certain number that will fit into that space. Sometimes when placing a number at the beginning without, having any idea of what numbers you're going to have, it can be intimidating. So since there are cards numbered from 1 to 20, if you split this section in half, then really a 10 would be, around this space here. So each section kind of gives you, a place of 5. So this section is 1 through 5, this one's 5 through 10, then 10 through 15, and lastly 15 through 20-ish. Something like that, but not exactly. This section is scored by gaining a point for each space that you have filled in, with a number that gets you 1 point, and the maximum you can score is 12 points with all the boxes filled in. But this section will score again for later rounds, so when writing in a number at the beginning of the game, that is like 3 points total for the game, while later in the game it will only gain you points for, how many scoring rounds are left in the game. When gaining a bonus here in this section, you can choose any number from 1 through 20 to use and write it anywhere you would like. I'd recommend just using the same number as the previous box, if there is one already written there, so that you can maximize your chances of using other numbers if they appear and if you choose that card. If you fill in all 3 spaces with numbers, you gain a civilization action bonus. These are the civilization cards. There are 20 in total, 4 of each of the 5 types. When activating this action, you will fill in any empty space matching the type shown on the card. Each type has their own column, and when you gain a bonus, you can choose any of the types to mark off. You will gain points at the end of the round according to how many types you have marked off for that round. The top row is for the first round, the second is the yellow or the second round, and the last row is the red round or the last round. If you marked none off, then that gets you -5 points. If you mark 1 or 2 of them off, that gives you 0 points. 3 marked off gets you 5 points, 4 gets you 10 points, and all 5 get you 15 points. You can gain a bonus if you fill in any 3 of the 5 spaces in a kingdom, and then you gain a free monument bonus action. This last section is the monument section, and there are 24 cards here total, 3 for each of the 8 types. When gaining this, you will fill in the topmost empty space matching that monument type. Each monument has its own column, and a bonus action lets you mark off the topmost of any monument type. If you mark off the top box in each of the 8 monument columns, you will gain a bonus action for any of the sections that you would like. When a kingdom is scored, you will gain 1 point for each column in your monument section that has at least 1 filled in space. So the maximum to score would be 8 points, but if you happen to get 3 of the same monuments marked off going down, then you will gain the 10-point bonus at the end of the game. Now, remember the game is interrupted once the 3rd raw card comes out. You can then push the deck towards the active player to know, when you return back, who is the active player. And after scoring is done for that round, for each of those sections, you will continue with the cards. And after 3 rounds, the game ends. All 3 kingdoms are then scored. The players gain extra 10 points for filling in all 9 god spaces, all 12 pharaoh spaces, all 12 Nile spaces, all 8 monument columns with at least 1 space filled in on top, and a monument where you have the column filled in with all 3 spaces. Those will all give you 10-point bonuses. These points are added together, and the player with the most points wins the game. And, well, that is Raw and Right. It's a game where you never know when exactly the game is going to end due to, the deck of cards being all shuffled together. when cards come out randomly. You're uncertain if they're going to be the raw cards, other cards. You don't know when it's going to end. Certain strategies might be better with quick games, while others might be better with the long games. Really, the 3rd, the 6th, and the 9th, especially the 9th card, will determine how long the rounds are, or how many turns you will take before points are scored for the round. And those are the raw cards I'm talking about. Each section on your score sheet will score differently, and some can give you a lot more points, where others just depends on what the other players have done in those sections to compare with what you have done to see if you can score some of those extra points. Long games will let you score those bonus 10 points as well by finishing an entire section, where a quick game might not have many turns, and those first 3 sections on the score sheet where you compare your stuff with what other people have done, it becomes a lot more important. The game doesn't include that bidding that the base game has, that Raw has, but it gives you a fair game where, everyone has the same amount of turns and you are choosing which areas that you want to focus on, just like the base game, kind of. You also gain bonuses for filling in a certain amount of spaces to gain a bonus action for the one below it, unless, it's the Monuments one where you get a free action to fill in anywhere. The game is super easy to learn and teach, but also has decisions in which actions to take, especially if you're the active player. Then you can choose an action that no one else can take, but everyone else takes the same amount of actions, just have different choices of to what actions they are. Overall, the game offers a fast and easy way to choose actions, which eventually is different for all players while still having similar choices, and is a game that will be easy to get back to the table and enjoy over and over again. Again, this is Brody with Let's Table It, where we get games, all these games, to the table. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We are working hard to bring to you videos like this one, so you know if these games are ones that you want to get to your own table.